Good morning and welcome to Medicare Made Simple with Medicare Myriam. Medicare Made Simple is brought to you by United Insurance Experts. Call today 561-464-CARE. That's 561-464-CARE. Now here's Medicare Myriam.
Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm your host Myriam with United Insurance Experts. United Insurance Experts is not affiliated with or endorsed with the federal government. At this time, we represent 10 organizations that offer 49 different products. If you'd like to learn more about all of your options, please go to Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE. Today's show focuses on two things. First, understanding what to do if you pick the wrong Medicare plan. The second, finding inspiration from my guest who's living proof that challenges can be transformed into purpose. I want to remind everyone that the annual election period is going on October 15 through December 7th. This is an important time for you to review your current plan and potentially make a change for the new year. I say potentially because if you're happy with your plan and your plan continues next year, you don't have to do a thing. It will automatically renew. And remind you that mistakes happen. So if you made a choice, let's say October 15th, and now you're having doubts, or maybe you're like, okay, this is not the plan for me, or maybe you just discovered that your doctor is not taking that new plan that you chose. Please know that you can go ahead and make a different choice. You can contact your agent, or you're welcome to call United Insurance Experts. We're here to help you, and we can select a new plan that makes better sense. Remember, that last plan that you choose is actually the one that's going to go in effect for January 1st, 2026. So again, you can make a change if you feel uncomfortable with the change you've already made, or if you haven't made a change and you want to make a change, please know that you can do so before December 7th. So if you've changed your mind, please make sure you do that before December 7th. I've had people call me on the last day, December 7th at 6 p.m. saying, oh my goodness, I forgot to make a change. I'm not saying I'm not going to pick up. I'll be here for you, but just please make sure you do it ahead of time if you can, because the last day to make a change is December 7th. And this plan will start January 1st. A lot of people get confused that it will start in December if you've made a change in November. It does not. This is for 2026. For those that have received a guaranteed issue rights letter. So if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan that terminated, so no longer going to be in effect next year, you should have received a termination letter stating that they're giving you a guaranteed issue right. So what this means is this allows you to purchase a supplement plan without any medical questions asked. So this is like a golden ticket for those people that have, a medical history and they haven't been able to go back to original Medicare along with a supplement. This allows them to go on a supplement plan without any medical questions. So those are only for the people that their plan was terminated and there's no new plan for the new year. So you should have received a letter that's giving you that guaranteed issue right. So if you have this letter and you don't know what to do with it, you're welcome to call us with any questions or any concerns before December 7th so we can make a choice. Actually, for those with guaranteed issue rights, you could I think you have until the end of the month to make a change, but the sooner you do it, the better. So make sure you talk to a licensed agent, or you're welcome to call us at 561-464-2273. One other thing I want to remind you guys, do not give your Medicare number to strangers. If somebody just calls you and says, hey, I need your Medicare number to give you free medical device, please don't give it to them. Protect your Medicare number as if it's your Social Security or your credit card number. Okay, so speaking of navigating challenges with confidence, my guest today has an incredible story of resilience, growth, and purpose. She turned her personal struggles into a global movement for health and mindset transformation. Brianna Greenspan is an inspirational author, speaker, and CEO of Brianna Greenspan International, a global leader in educational training and support focused on fostering a growth mindset and well-being. Born with a complex chronic illness that shaped her journey, Brianna faced immense physical challenges, which inspired her to ask powerful, life-changing questions. Those questions become the foundation of her personal transformation and her life life's calling, helping others unlock their potential and live with greater health and purpose. Brianna, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's my pleasure to have you here with me today. And why don't we start with your story, Brianna? Your story is deeply inspiring. Why don't you start by sharing your journey and what led you to do the work you do today?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. And first and foremost, thank you so much for all that you do for Medicare patients, because when I think about my story, I think about all of the medical complications and medical challenges that I experienced and all of the ways that we had to navigate what could or couldn't be covered and what ways that we could go through the medical gymnastics of like finding doctors that accepted whatever it was that I had at the, whatever plan I had at the time. So first and foremost, thank you so much for all that you do. And when I think about my own story, I really have to go back to the beginning. I was born with a complex chronic illness, and as a result, by the time I was always kind of like fidgety and colicky and cranky, and by the time I could talk, I was constantly complaining. I was saying there's an ouchie, a bobo, and I started going to doctor's appointments and specialists, and then came the labels and the diagnoses and the medications and the assistive devices, and eventually as I started getting older, things got more complex. And I started having so many symptoms all the time that my quality of life was just overly uncomfortable in a lot of ways. And when I was an adolescent, I actually thought that everybody had chronic illnesses and really big challenges. And so it wasn't until I learned of perfect attendance records that I learned that like some kids actually don't go to the doctor all the time. Right. And then by the time I was in third grade, that's really where I developed a neural pathway that I was different, because the kids in my grade started an I Hate Brianna club saying that like sick was like they didn't want to be friends with me because I was sick. And what transpired for me is that I thought that everything was wrong about me, that I was broken, that something was like, I would not be well received if others knew the way in which I suffered. And so that masked a lot of how I showed up on my journey. And, I'm not going to get into all of the details, but I continued having more and more challenges until I lost the ability to walk when I was 20 after a failed L5-S1 fusion surgery. And that was really where like my transformation began, because I was a sophomore in college. I had lost the ability to walk, and I was flying home to see my neurosurgeon as a follow-up appointment. And I said to my parents, honestly, this is the most challenging time of my life. It hurts to breathe. It hurts to move. It hurts to go to the bathroom. It hurts to be alive. If the neurosurgeon doesn't have any good answers, do I even want to live anymore? And that was really challenging for me to confront with myself, that I was like complete in this cycle of hopelessness and despair, and also really challenging for my parents to hear. Yet, we said, tomorrow's another day. We're going to go to the doctor and we'll see what happens. And the next morning I woke up and I learned that my dear friend had OD'd and died in college. And he was someone that I had just seen the day before. And so, I was sitting in a deep sense of pain and uncertainty and hopelessness, and then deep sadness and loss. And when I went to the neurosurgeon, we told him what was going on, and he said, unfortunately, your surgery didn't work. And in fact, we don't really have any good solutions for you. We can upgrade your handicap placard from a temporary one to a permanent one. We can increase your steroid shots. And then he prescribed to me the medication that my friend had just OD'd and died from.
Oh my God.
And I kind of lost it. That's kind of where I have what I call my spiritual awakening. And I asked my first intentional question. I said, is there anything else out there that can help me with the way that I'm suffering? And if so, where can I find it? There must be something, because the answers that I had been receiving, pills, shots, surgeries, rinse and repeat, assistive devices, limiting beliefs, ultimately got me into a space that it was really challenging to live and to navigate. And so that one question opened up a world of possibilities and therapies and modalities and doctors and resources and medications and things that I didn't know were available before. And so that's really where my illness to wellness journey began. And
is that how the book of questions, Living with Chronic Illness, was born?
Yes. In fact, the Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness, which comes out November 17th. Yay! I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm excited for you.
It's a big labor of love that I've been consciously working on with my colleague, Dr. Gregory Stock, who wrote the original Book of Questions back in the 80s for about 7 years. It's the only project that I came into the pandemic with, and I'm so grateful to be able to bring it forward now. But truthfully, it's a labor of love of all of the questions that I've consistently asked myself since that one day, and all of the ways in which I've been able to support my well-being and strengthen, areas where I was struggling before. And so this book has been a tool that I initially used myself to release some of the held trauma that I had as a result of having so many symptoms. And it's a tool that I use to inspire myself to take control of what I could focus on, because a lot of my childhood was focused on the things that were outside of my control. And once I learned that there were things in my control, I started to really orient myself to be hyper-focused on those things, because that was really all that I was capable of controlling, and it did make a positive difference.
Wow. So the Book of Questions, can you tell us why questioning is such a powerful tool for healing and mindset?
Absolutely. So, there's something to be said for the conversations that we have in our mind. We're the only person that's in our mind. We're the only person that knows the conversation that is going on in the midst of chaos. Like, this is a you to you game. And so you're the only one who knows if the language that you're using is supporting your well-being or inviting you to stay in the same place, or maybe even inviting you to take steps backwards. And so what I noticed on my own journey is the questions that I was asking weren't inviting me to be a steward of support for myself. And so I started asking different questions. Like, despite how I started asking so many questions, including what I now call the daily. So there's 4 daily questions in the Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness. And the first one is, despite how I'm feeling in this exact moment, what can I do to best support myself starting now? Okay. And this is what I call like an ownership micro massive action question. So I might have just had a pretty serious symptom, for instance, but then I come to, and my first conscious thought is, despite how I'm feeling, what can I do to best support myself starting now? And sometimes it's take a deep breath, or sit down, or get a straw, or ask for help, or, drink some water, or, and sometimes it's bigger than that, like maybe make an appointment or get an IV or go to a hospital, like whatever the answer is, it's because I ask myself profound questions that I can get to new answers.
It's funny because we have our answers. We know our answers. We know what we want and what we need sometimes. If we just listen to ourselves.
Exactly. And that's part of what these questions are, an invitation to look within, to listen to yourself. And so the second daily question that I use are, what are the tools and resources that best support me in my time of need? And where can I place them so that I have them when I need them? For instance, I have an autonomic issue, and so sometimes I'm prone to fainting. But whenever I feel like I'm going to faint, I ask that question, despite how I'm feeling, what can I do to best support myself starting now? And I sit down. And then what would have been me fainting and hurting myself and, all the ramifications that come with fainting, I eliminate because I ask myself that question and I'm able to sit down. Even if it's in the grocery store aisle, even if it's like in some place that might look weird for you to sit, I'm going to do the thing to protect myself. And it's because of the questions I ask. So the second one, what are the tools and resources that best support me in my time of need? There's certain things like electrolytes, they're very helpful for me personally, but they're more helpful if they're on my desk or my nightstand than they are if they're in my pantry. Right. And so that's why I ask myself, where can I place them so I have them when I need them? It's about access. It's not just about like knowing the thing that helps you and owning it, but also like where is it so that it's a steward of support in your time of need. So that's where the daily questions kind of came from.
Yeah, it's and to remind us, right? In a way, like my Stanley cup is right here, so that means I need water.
Exactly. It's something to orient you. And even if you knew you needed water, but the cup wasn't there, you might not have you might not have gotten up to get it.
No,
If you didn't
I
have that
wouldn't have.
question, you might not have thought to take a sip.
It's
And
like, yeah, if I don't have my cup with me, I will not drink water all day.
Exactly.
And I'll be like, wait, did I drink water today? No,
Exactly,
I didn't have my
because
cup
you
with
need
me.
you need things to
Yes.
be in your environment, and then you need questions that reorient you to take the action. It can be there, and you might not drink it, but when you ask yourself, despite
That
how
is
I'm
true.
feeling, oh, I'm feeling a little hot. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
feeling a little tired. Oh,
Does
I'm
that mean I
feeling a
could
little.
put the AC on?
Oh, maybe I should drink some water. Maybe I should this, because when you ask a question,
Yeah.
you get to a totally new answer. And
Yeah.
for me, I didn't know how much held trauma that I had as a result of so many symptoms and the stories around them and the challenges that come up with living with a chronic illness. And the self-reflective questions that we have in this book, the Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness, take you on your own self-exploration journey. So one
Okay.
question is, when have you shown great courage and grit in overcoming something that most people take for granted? Did you celebrate your triumph as much as it deserved? You know, and these are things that we just kind of move on.
Yeah.
We're like moving on to the next.
Yeah.
Things that deserve to be celebrated, we're not necessarily even giving the time of day. And
Yeah.
things that don't deserve to be celebrated are often ruminating in our minds. And so I just started thinking, how could I be a steward of support to myself, knowing
Right.
that I am the only one who's in my head, who's hearing my thoughts, who's either
Yes.
cheerleading me down or cutting me down. Like,
Yeah.
I know the ways
Right.
to help. And so spending so much time mentoring kids and teens with chronic and terminal illnesses and supporting my own journey, I just learned that there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of tools that we can use to support ourselves.
Of course, we have our answers. It's funny you mentioned, we're listening to ourselves, and sometimes my husband's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I told you this." He goes, "No, you didn't. It's because I thought about it and I never actually said it." So sometimes I automatically assume people are listening to my thoughts. So I get you on that. Now, many of our listeners live with chronic conditions. What's one daily question or practice they can start using today to feel more empowered?
Oh, there's so many. Some of that which we already discussed, like the dailies, but one that I think is so interesting is what stories do you tell yourself about your illness? And what purposes do those serve you? What purposes do they serve for you? Are there other stories that might better serve you? And the thing that's interesting about self-reflective questions is that there's no right or wrong answers. And you're on your own self-exploration journey where your answers might change as you grow and evolve. And so my answers to each of these questions have evolved as I've landed in a new space. But I get to ask myself, is that story serving me? Is that thing helping me? What are the ways that I can be a steward of support? I mean that in so many ways, because when I was a kid, I didn't know that I could focus on things that I had control over. I didn't know that I could be my own best friend in my mind. I didn't know that I could encourage and support myself to go to physical therapy and do the thing and, whatever that might look like. But now that I do, it's been a gift and privilege to reorient the language that I use and to not only become stronger, but each year reflect on how many things that used to plague me and affect me in grand ways that I'm able to navigate through in an intentional manner.
Right. Now, we're talking about the book, and it's coming out November
17th.
17th. How does someone purchase your book?
It is currently available for purchase on Amazon for pre-order.
Okay.
And we also have thebookofquestions.com where you can order it in bulk, or we have an impact campaign going on because truthfully, my vision is that people are able to find these questions in this tool on their own journey when they need it. And so we have partnered with hospitals, infusion centers, and dialysis units across the country, inviting people to buy books that we will then donate to these infusion centers and hospitals. And so if you're interested in any of those things, buying a book on Amazon or buying them in bulk to give out in some capacity, or you'd like to contribute to us bringing them to hospitals and infusion centers across the country, the Book of Questions .com has all of our contact information, and you can reach out in any way. We do have that impact campaign, and it's thebookofquestions.com/impact-team. And it has all the information about all the things we're really working on.
So what's that website? Is it because you mentioned teams?
The bookofquestions.com has everything you could need.
Perfect. And from there they can navigate to
exactly.
if they were interested in bulk or just one, maybe one copy. So either way, or if they want to donate or know more information, all that contact information is there. Perfect. Now, you talk about building resilience even in your hardest days. What role does hope play and how do you sustain it?
Hope is so important, and truthfully, I lived in such a hopeless state for so many years because I was so confident that nothing would ever help because nothing had ever helped. I was so confident that no medication or no doctor had the answer because no medication and no doctor did have the answer before. And so the moment that I started to ask myself that question, is there anything else out there that can help me with the way that I'm suffering? And if so, where can I find it? I started to get curious about the role of hope and how I could infuse, hope for a tool or a resource or a therapy or a modality or a friend or a compassionate listening ear. And those things started to appear. So when I think about hope and its, importance in my hardest days, I start thinking about all the evidence that the universe has my back, that there are glimmers of goodness in each challenge. And what I start to notice is that although the things I'm experiencing are often so heavy, there's often so many, that person appears and then that thing was helpful and then something that I didn't expect happened that brought a smile. And so there's always something, to be hopeful about if you're looking for it. And when I was younger, I didn't even know that I could, look for hope in various ways.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Now, what advice would you give to caregivers or loved ones supporting someone living with chronic illness?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to all of those that caregive for someone who's living with a chronic illness, because it is so hard. And my first piece of advice is to ask yourself that same question. Despite how I'm feeling in this exact moment, what can I do to best support myself? Because if you're a caregiver, you're probably giving more than you have regularly. And if you don't resource yourself to refill up your own cup, you might be giving the last bits that you have. And so some of these questions are applicable to caregivers as well. And the one question that I love for caregivers to ask others is, how can I best support you right now? Because oftentimes, if you have a chronic illness, someone's telling you what you need and how to support you, and no one's really asking what support you need in such an open-ended way. And so that is really my advice with questions.
Well, thank you. That's perfect. A lot of us forget, as a caregiver myself, I was taking care of my dad for so long, and it was like the worst time for me. I didn't realize I wasn't eating, or sometimes I was eating too much. I was everywhere.
Despite how I'm feeling, what can I do to best support myself starting now? And the truth is, we can hydrate ourselves, see the sun, find something that brings us a smile. There's so many ways that we can support ourselves in the midst of our hardest moments. And if we miss that moment, our body does suffer, our mind does suffer. And so there's always another moment that you're in that you can reorient. And that's the gift of, a fast-paced, fast-moving world.
Yes. Definitely fast-paced. Now, can you remind us again, where can someone go and purchase your book?
The Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness. You can just purchase it on Amazon right now. It's available for pre-order. You can type in my name, Brianna Greenspan, or you can type in The Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness, and it should come right up on Amazon.
So make sure you actually type in The Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness, because I'm in here right now in Amazon.
Yes, it is not The Book of Questions, which is the New York Times bestselling book from the 80s, although I did partner with Dr. Gregory Stock, the original author of The Book of Questions, and this is the first book that he's ever co-authored with someone. And it's a beautiful gift and privilege because when he found me, he said, your story is profound and you've used questions to help strengthen your resolve year after year as more symptoms come up. And I'd like for you to share the types of questions you use and how you're able to navigate through. And that birthed an entire decade of learning together that eventually landed on the Book of Questions, Living with Chronic Illness, coming out November 17th.
Yes, perfect. Are you going to be anywhere like signing books or anything like that?
Yes, all across the country. I don't have any that I can mention here right now, but a lot of private signings going on, and I'm happy to do any kind of supportive community work that could support people living with chronic illness.
Well, Brianna, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and inspiration today. Your story reminds us that with the right mindset and the right questions, even life's biggest challenges can become our greatest teachers. Thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you for all you do.
Yes. We wish everybody a lovely weekend, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to Medicare Made Simple with Medicare Myriam right here on Legends 100.3. Medicare Made Simple is brought to you by United Insurance Experts. For more information, call 561-464-CARE. That's 561-464-CARE. Tune in next Saturday at 9 a.m. for more Medicare Made Simple with Medicare Myriam. Are you 65 or turning 65 soon? Then you need to give Medicare expert Myriam and her dream team at United Insurance Experts a call today. They specialize in Medicare and will guide you in making the right choice for your specific needs. One plan doesn't fit all. United Insurance Experts offer you choices: Blue Cross, Humana, Aetna, United Healthcare, and many, many more. Call Myriam at United Insurance Experts at 561-464-CARE. That's 561-464-2273. Medicare can be very confusing. Myriam is here to help. Call Myriam today at 561-464-CARE. That's 561-464-2273. Myriam will educate you with no obligation on your part. Or visit UnitedInsuranceExperts.com. 561-464-CARE or UnitedInsuranceExperts.com. United Insurance Experts is headquartered in Boca Raton and licensed nationally, speaks English, Portuguese, and Spanish.